started doing it. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Oh, we're up. Hey,
We're
everybody.
live,
Welcome
baby.
to Elite Ageless Mindset. I'm Nick Best, and this is Jon Andersen. And here we are again, Sunday morning.
We're here every Sunday morning, basically to share with you guys how we do it. You know, we're obviously really, really good at being accountable. We've been accountable to what we've been doing for over 40 years each. So we got a little bit of experience to share. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing, and sharing is caring. So
that's it. And what we're going to talk about today is kind of a fun concept, because we all kind of started off, I guess you'd say, projecting or forecasting or kind of thinking through, visualizing what we're going to do in our training, right? And when did you start doing that, Nick?
Oh, geez. The funny thing is I went to a thing called offense defense football camp back in the day, back in the early 80s. And I remember seeing like Howie Long and a couple of those guys, and they were talking about visualizing what you were going to do before you do it. So if you're going to come up and you're going to try to take on this offensive lineman, have an idea of what technique you're going to use, and then visualize it and being successful doing it before the next play comes up, and do that. He goes, and that's a great thing to do in the morning before you get started with your day, and line your things out for the day that way as well. And that's kind of when I started doing it back my junior year in high school.
So were you doing it just in your training and your athletics, or were you doing it in your whole life already?
Well, it started with just training and athletics. And then that quickly, within a year, evolved into, kind of like relating everyday stuff into it. Okay, I got to do this today. I got to give this sales presentation. I'm going to go through it, and you practice it. You go through it in your head. You visualize what you're going to say going through the presentation, which also makes it a lot easier to talk in front of a camera and stuff like that as well, by the way. You just get used to doing that, and it becomes a tool that you just end up using in everything without even thinking about it. It just becomes something in your repertoire that you just do every day.
Well, I was kind of forced into this. Obviously you learned from Howie Long, which is really cool. I was actually kind of forced into this scenario because as a youngster, I had a really hard time keeping up with the pack. I had whopping learning disability. And so my mom was really helpful in kind of helping me create, I guess it was more of like systems at first. Like, okay, look, when you get home, you're going to start on your homework. You're going to lay out all your clothes the night before. You're going to make sure your lunch is packed. So there was a lot of premeditation in my life. Like the decisions were made ahead of time for me. That's what allowed me to kind of keep my head above water, so to speak. And so I quickly learned that planning ahead was what kind of kept me, I guess you'd say, I hate to call it success at that point, because it was just keep it up. And even then, it was just barely keep it up, success for me, for sure. And then when I started lifting weights, that's when I really got hooked with how much I could lift. And then at that point, I was always pre-planning what I was going to do, because I was so used to pre-planning and, just in my daily life. So I would say it was bench press. I remember the first time I benched 300 pounds, it was like, God, that was such a big milestone. It's like, okay, I'm going to start off with 185, and I'm going to do 2. And then I had every single one mapped out all the way to the single at 300. And so I guess that's kind of how I got started with it. And then as I got older, it just translated into all elements of my life, even now into my relationships,
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, no, it kind of, it's funny how it can just filter into everything. And then, as I got a little bit older and I met, Nemo George Chang Buddha III, that increased 100-fold after that. So it's just.
And for real quick, let me interject real quick. For those of you guys that don't know, Nick is a Buddhist. So when he says that real quickly, that he's talking about his belief system.
Yeah. And it was amazing how the focus and how to direct your energy completely changed. So it was pretty neat on how it works. And I just took to it like a fish to water, just swam all over the place. And it was really good. I mean, it really was.
Well, when we take, kind of our experiences and how, this is a huge part of why we have the consistency and the success that we do. I think if you just take this, I think the lesson for our listeners and our, is that to take this stuff and apply it into, I think the first thing is just to apply it into the stuff you're having trouble with. Like maybe it's meal prep. Maybe it's, getting to the gym. If you're having trouble getting to the gym, plan it. Like, okay, I'm going to get off work. I'm going to go, I'm just talking up my butt. I'm going to go to the gas station across the street and get an energy drink. And then I'm going to go and get in my car. I'm going to listen to AC/DC until I get to, plan the little details out, and it's already done, and then you can follow through that stuff versus if you go the other way and you start planning out, not going to the gym. Well, you're going to follow the plan that you put in your head.
Right. 100%. 100%. And so it's just kind of neat because you can sit there and let everything go and then plan, okay, as I'm in this state, you start thinking, what do I need to handle? And then you focus on each item and line it up and think about how it's going to go and plan for it and then go through it and then go execute it. It's just that simple. And when you do that and you get a plan together and you go out and execute, 9 out of 10 times you're going to be a whole lot more successful you were than walking around with no plan and no execution.
Oh, a man with a plan, there's a big difference of a man with a plan versus a man without a plan. No question.
Build a plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah. You think of it almost like, like a ship, leaves a port. If he doesn't have another port to go to, he just wanders around out at sea, never gets anywhere.
Yeah. Other than floating on the water. But yeah, same thing.
So I think
if you don't have a destination, you're not going to get there.
Yes. I think the idea of this whole pre-planning thing, identify the things in your life that you're struggling with and start there because it makes a huge, huge difference on the things that you're struggling with. Obviously we're here to help you guys get in shape. So we're talking training, we're talking nutrition. And we know that probably for most, getting to the gym consistently is the number one issue. And then doing meal prep consistently, those are probably the top two. Would you agree, brother?
Oh, hands down. Because, I'm going to the gym. Yes, but you're eating chicken fried steak every day. Probably not a great idea. Covered in gravy and covered in this. You're eating a 2,000 calorie, junk meal every day, 2 or 3 meals a day, and then you're going to fast food and you're doing these things. You're definitely not going to be successful doing that. So you need to eat better, more nutrient dense food. And
we've given you the plan to do that. So all you got to do is follow our lead. Yep. And you've got when it comes down to it, the game plan is in front of you. We send you the game plan every week. Now it's just time to take and premeditate the difficult parts. As it, like I said, if it's getting to the gym, start visualizing the process of getting to the gym after work. Or maybe it's visualizing the process of getting up early to go to the gym, whatever it is that works in your life. And then with meal prep, the same. What would you say with meal prep? What would be the first step in visualizing getting the meal prep done consistently, brother?
Visualizing going to the store and getting everything you need and having it at your house. And then visualize starting to prepare the meals and start taking the time and visualizing preparing the meals and having them set wherever you're going to store them in the refrigerator or whatever, and then being able to just grab what you need and go. It's not super hard. You just got to go do it. And if you don't visualize yourself doing it, you're never going to do it.
Well, there's this really cool thing called neuroplasticity. And what that means is the more times you think about something, the easier it becomes to think about. And pretty soon you don't really have to think about thinking about it. It just kind of, you think this shit all by yourself. So you're not really thinking, oh boy, I need to do this. You just find yourself doing it because the neurons in your brain have created that pathway where this is just what you do now. So, so think about that. Not to get too off the beaten path or too deep, but what we think about is what we get. What we think about is what we become.
Yeah.
I always make the joke. if you're thinking about reasons not to do something, you're going to find the reasons not to do it. If you're thinking about the reasons to do something, you're going to find the reasons to do it. So what are you thinking about is really the kind of, I guess you'd say, the foundation of this whole thing. So start thinking about, then visualize the stuff that you're struggling with, and it all fall into place.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then the positive mindset going into that just reinforces the whole thing.
Yes. Well, you know, and the thing about it is when you develop the thought process and you're having these thoughts often about getting your stuff done, it really feels good. It starts to, it makes you feel better. It makes you feel happier. It builds your self-esteem, and you just kind of become a little bit of a different creature. Deep down, we all know that when we say we're going to do something, we don't do it. It breaks us down. It's not good for our psyche, our souls, whatever you want to call it. So a little bit of pre-planning is the simple way to get from point A to point B. So,
and it's just taking that quiet time for yourself before your day starts to sit down and list it on your head and go.
Yeah. Or you could do it at night. I'm a night guy.
Yeah.
Because in the morning time, if I don't wake up with the plan already registered in my head, I tend to turn into a little bit of Rain Man. You know, I start finding who's on first, start rocking, you know. I need that, because that's the way I was from as a kid. Waking up and planning things just was too late for me. I needed to be a step ahead of the pack just to keep up. And so the nighttime plan, if you have trouble with the morning planning, like Nick's a morning planner, I'm an evening planner. There's no wrong, there's no right. It's what works best for you.
Exactly. At the end of the day, everything's what works best for you. So we're just trying to have you learn some easier ways of doing things, or learn from our experiences on doing things. Like I said, John's the night guy. I'm the morning guy. Always been the morning guy. It's like, all right, what are we doing today? Let's go. Let's start lining it out. You get fired up. You get ready to go. And then you go out and you just start knocking it down. And then all of a sudden you're done with everything. You got a few hours at the end of the evening left, and you decide what you want to do for that evening.
You know, on that level too, I'm the evening guy primarily because I always get it so early. Like right now, I'm on a streak of getting up at 3 a.m., 2:59 to be exact. And so I need that, because that first 40 minutes, I'm getting shit done, but I'm really not. I mean, I'm not all the way there, if you will. It's early.
Yeah.
So, but if I plan it the night before, I'm basically being productive, and I'm not really thinking about much because it's already been decided. So
yeah, I've always been that guy that can just roll out of bed and go.
There you have it. Two different ways.
So, yeah. So like now, because of the things I have earlier in the day and stuff like that, I wake up between 5 and 6 o'clock, and I just get my day rolling and get going. And I go to bed a little later than he does. I go to bed at like 10, sometimes 11, but I try to get to bed, 10-ish most every day, if not a little earlier. Last night I got to sleep at like 9. So it was good. It was a good day.
Yeah. That's it. Well, but what's the words of wisdom for the week?
Relax, think about what you got to do, and then go execute. Visualize yourself coming through these things, and then just go get it done.
Brother, I love the fact that you said relax, because realistically, when you visualize and the decisions are already made, then you can relax.
Exactly.
So it really, it's a stress reliever if you think about it from that perspective. That's really, really cool. Yeah. Well, there you have it, everyone. We're here as always, Sunday morning, same time, same place, to help you be accountable to you, because we're accountable to ourselves first, to each other, and to you. And we want to share some of our strategies of how we can make this a little easier for you guys. So that being said, thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week, same time, same place.
Go get some.
There we go.
That's fun.
That's a good one, brother.
Yeah.
You know, these are it's crazy how you and I both had experiences with this early on in life.